Welcome to the Fabulous Fifties and Beyond. I'm Jim Pollard with my co-host, my wife Jeanetta. Today we're going to be talking about hospice here in Western Kentucky, and we're talking about some of the bereavement programs that they have. They have some programs that are very, very helpful to people. So we want you to stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
And he'd say, go with what you got. Start from where you are. Give it your best shot. Keep reaching for that star. Get in the race, keep your own pace, keep moving and never stop. Just go, go with what you got.
We're glad you've joined us today. My name is Jim Pollard, my wife Jeanetta, the co-host, and our guests today are Susan, Mason, and Leah Fondaw. Fondaw, okay. And so we're glad to have y'all with us today. We're going to be talking about Hospice of Western Kentucky. I think that's probably not the proper name, but it's, do you do work up into Illinois too, or is it strictly?
Yes, we do.
That's what I thought, yeah.
We cover 3 counties in Illinois, Massac, Johnson, and Pope.
Yeah, and there's always a need for volunteers, so you'll probably hear from Hospice once a year in our program as a result of that. But Hospice does a great work. I've said that, I tell that everywhere I go, Susan, because of the way that y'all have worked with me and doing the Santa things. Because if you don't realize it by now, I am a professional Santa, and I'm known around the area as Santa Claus. And we will do Santa 24/7, 365 for hospice and for terminally ill or critically ill family members and all. And your teams have been so fantastic in supporting that. You know, I wherever I go, I spread the word. I said they cook dinner, they go in and decorate a Christmas tree, and then take it right back out after we get through.
And presents.
And presents. And my wife and I go in with bags of presents. And it's really a service. I mean, the kids love it, and the parents. Most of the time, it's the parents that are leaving, and they want to have Christmas before they go. And it's just a great thing, and we thoroughly enjoy doing it. But as we said, I think one of the things is a little background of hospice, what hospice does, because I have come to find out that the majority of people do not fully understand what hospice is and what it does.
Right. Hospice is a special care program for people that are experiencing some sort of terminal illness. And a lot of people are under the misconception that hospice is just for cancer patients. In fact, we take lots of other terminal diagnoses, and so our main goal is to make people comfortable and help them live their life as fully as possible.
Doesn't there have to be a certain period of time that they're expected not to make it?
That is correct. The doctor does have to sign an order that says 6 months or less. But several years ago, you know, Medicare and Medicaid dropped that 6 months. So it's just how the patient, how their prognosis. Some people, you know, decline more rapidly than others. But we have some patients in hospice for a year or two or longer, as long as, you know, they need us and they're showing some sort of decline.
Another thing that was eye-opening for us is a person can go in and come out of hospice.
Absolutely. We do have some patients that will, you know, come into hospice and have maybe decided to discontinue treatment and come in, and then maybe at a later date they'll decide that they do want to seek more aggressive treatment, because to come into hospice you can no longer be seeking aggressive treatment. So sometimes people change their mind and decide they want to get some more aggressive treatment, and that's just fine. Then they revoke the hospice benefits, and then we might pick them up at a later time.
Go ahead.
So that is, that's a good thing. It means that they're getting better.
Right, absolutely.
Usually if they come out of it.
Absolutely.
And we're all for
Or if
that.
they hear about a new treatment or something that's out there that they didn't know about or wasn't known about at the time, and they want to try that, so that means they can.
Mm-hmm. We've had several patients do that, and that actually, you know, they'll seek some treatment and get a little better. But also there is a lot of research out there that people that go on hospice a lot of times can live longer once they go on hospice, because we help, our main goal is their quality of life. We try to help improve their quality of life, their pain, keep their pain under control and things like that. So that's one thing I wanted to bring up.
And there is no reason in this day and time why anyone has to suffer pain, is it?
That's right.
I mean, they can, there's something they can do for them.
Well, she and I, we try to attend as many clinical classes. I guess clinical might be the right term, but I think classes or clinics or meetings that we can to find out as much as we can about what's going on. And we went to one at Lourdes several years ago, and it was like a pain management class is what it was that they were putting on over there. And we learned a lot there where they talk about pain management, and that's where we learned the statement, nobody has to be in pain today. Right. You know, and you know, a lot of people are afraid of getting addicted, but they said we could handle that, you know, and keep you from doing that or help you withdraw. So there's a lot of things out there today, and there's a lot of help that is available in these different classes. And then not only that, but I know you have a lot of groups that I think you're involved in, aren't you, Leah? The different types of groups. There are groups like the bereavement groups.
A lot of support groups out there for grief, and some we specialize in spouses. We have a special group for parents. We have general grief groups. We do a lot of grief workshops, and we're just available to come speak anywhere that a group might want to know more about grief or how to cope with that. We go to the schools and we talk to kids about grief, and a lot of times teach them things that they can pass along to their parents, because so many people don't understand about it, especially until you go through it.
What would be a brief, or what would be a synopsis, I don't care whether it's brief or not, of a workshop?
Well, you know, we teach an overview to begin with, and a lot of times we'll do more in-depth grief workshops, but just, you know, the stages of grief, what's the difference between healthy coping and unhealthy ways of coping with grief, what are some good ways you can express that grief in a healthy way, and a lot of times the workshops turn into people kind of sharing and asking questions about grief, and we kind of usually have a panel that can help answer those questions.
I think a big thing with that would be, like you say, able to share your feelings with somebody else who's gone through the same thing you have.
Yes, it's so nice to just be in the room with someone else who's been through something similar and really understands what you're saying. It makes such a big difference, and I think that's why the support groups work so well. We give out education on grief, but people just start talking, and that's where the real healing comes, when you get to share some of your feelings and get it out, because sometimes people don't talk about it with their families because maybe they've talked some about it and they kind of get shut down, or people try to protect them. I think a lot of times families try to protect and say, well, let's talk about something else, when really it's healing to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't want the name mentioned. You know, they don't want anybody talking about the person that's gone. And as you said, so many people need to talk about it. And they want to talk about them because they still have the memories even though they're gone.
I give the example of a balloon. It builds up, it builds up, it builds up. If it doesn't come out, you know, by talking or some way healthy, it's going to explode. So you got to make sure you find ways to get air out of your balloon. And I think there's so many different ways to do that, but talking to people is one of them, but journaling, writing, reading about grief, so many different ways you can do it. And that's a lot of what we talk about in our groups, those healthy ways.
I've been involved now in 2 Camp Robbins, I guess. And for those of you who don't know what Camp Robin is, explain what it is, and then I'll tell my story.
Well, it's a grief camp for kids. We do once a year in Paducah. It's going to be May 30th this year. It's for kids age 4 to 16, or really anyone who wants to attend. We also have adult classes going on at the same time as the children's camp. So really it's for all ages. We usually have booths set up, and the kids are grouped in their ages, and they go around to the different booths. We have a memory booth, a story time booth where we read a story, and we've had Bob Dog read the story, you know, different characters, and we have a counseling time with that. We have arts and crafts. We have a petting zoo. So we just have fun things there. We have a free lunch and a lot of education mixed with fun to help children know how to express their grief in a healthy way, and just try to make it a really good, memorable day for them, and have things there that they can take home with them as memories. We did a quilt last year where each child got to make a special quilt square with their loved ones' names on it and their handprint, and we just do things like that.
Yeah, we saw the quilt today. We were in the office and saw the quilt hanging today. But I have two stories from Camp Robin that I think are exciting. One is, it was exciting for me to watch this one child, I don't remember his name, who was very withdrawn, didn't want to talk, or and that's the way a lot of them are when they come in for the first time. He just really didn't want to participate. But through the day, and by the end of the day, he really got involved in the journaling or the making of the photo album that they were making that day. By then, he had really warmed up and gotten involved in it. And I helped him, and the different ones. But I think the funniest thing, and Susan may remember this, was when we went in, I guess you call it group time, We went in there. Well, I was with the group that I was with, and us leaders, we sat in the chairs, and so they said, all right, said, let's get down on the floor. I don't know if you were there or not. This was 2 years ago. You probably, I don't know. They said, let's get down on the floor. And so the kids got down on the floor, and the group leader got down on the floor, but us adults stayed in the chair. And one of the boys says, well, what about Santa? Isn't he going to get down here with us?
And get down there.
So I said, well, I can get down with somebody going to help me get up. But so I got down there, and they started sharing. They started around the group for the first thing, And I just keep my mouth shut, and they go right by me. And about the second one by me, the other one back there says, the same kid, he says, well, Santa, tell us your story. So every time we went around the room, and what I did was, I had lost my brother, who's younger than I am, to cancer. And so I just used him as my person and was my story. So every time we went out of the room, I would tell something about my brother to participate with them. Yeah. And I thought that was pretty neat that they wanted me to be right in the middle of everything that was going on, But I really enjoyed it. I enjoy the camp. I enjoy seeing the change in the kids that come over them during the day. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's a great thing that's happening out there, and we see things that are happening like that. And go ahead, you want to say something?
One thing y'all do is, I know like when there's a death, like these two little children that were burned just recently, that you go in to help the kids understand that, and because they were their friends.
Yeah,
they were there.
And we're available to go speak or do memorial services or whatever the school system would like us to help with. We're available to give education, and we've done balloon releases at schools before and helped with journaling, and it's good, really good.
Well, we're about through with the first type, believe it or not. Time moves fast, and so we want to take a break. We'll take a short break here, and then we'll be back. So you stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
And he'd say, go with what you got. Start from where you are. Give it your best shot. Keep reaching for that star. Get in the race. Keep your own pace. Keep moving and never stop. Just go. Go with what you got.
Welcome back, and we want to encourage you to, our show is shown 3 times a week in the Paducah area on Comcast TV, but it's also on the internet. It is streamed on the internet where you can see it. You can go to the WKCTC website and click on the TV program section of it, and there you will be shown the different shows, the scheduling, and you can pick out your show and click it on, and you can see it on the internet. It's downloaded. You can download it, or you can view it on the internet. And that's exciting that's happening now. And also, we want you to know that they'll be showing our blog address now, that we have a blog up called the Fabulous Fifties and Beyond, and that on that blog we'll be talking about the different shows that we feature. We'll be having links to different organizations that are there to where you can find information. We'll have a link to the hospice and the different things to where you can find more information about what it is you're looking for. And also today we have we're going to put up a slide that'll show you how to volunteer. The hospice organization is a volunteer organization, and it's important that you volunteer and work. Remember, we encourage you, and there are a lot of you sitting out there that have more time than you know what to do with, and you're sitting there worrying yourself to death about what am I going to do with all this time? Well, go out and volunteer, and I'm sure Susan will be glad to have you come in and be trained as a hospice volunteer. And you don't realize what you're doing, just being able to spend some time with some of the people and just talk with them. I know I went to this one man's house one time, the one you sent me to there in Mayfield, and he just loved to show me all of his, he was a World War II veteran, and he had all these pictures and his medals and all this different thing, and he just really enjoyed showing that to me. And I know that Jeanetta has gone and has, she can tell you stories where she shared her book with people and how they love her book and the different things. But we want to encourage you to volunteer. That's part of what the mission of this show is to get you to volunteer in the different areas and the different associations and organizations around the community so that you can help out. Now, Leah's going to tell us a little bit how you can get to work with Camp Robin, and that's, again, working with the kids. So talk to us about that, Leah.
Well, and two, just if you know any children that you feel would benefit from this camp, to call hospice. I think we'll have the number on the screen too, is that right? And we can send you the information to get that child registered for Camp Robin. Because I know we had about 25 last year.
I think so.
We'd love to have, I know there's more kids in the community that could benefit from it. We'd like to have a lot more kids than we do volunteers. So call our office anytime and we'll give you more information about how to get your kid registered for that, and also adults. And we're going to have special classes for volunteers that want to volunteer, especially for Camp Robin. So if that's something specifically you want to volunteer for, we're going to have special training starting with that. So you can just, again, call the office for more information about that. And I don't know if you want to tell about some of the special things they need to do otherwise to be a volunteer, but
In order to be a volunteer with hospice, you would need to complete an application. All of our volunteers complete an application, but I make it pretty easy for everybody. We do a background check, but that's on all our employees and our volunteers. But more importantly, once you get through all of that, we have a 12-hour class. And that will prepare you to be able to go out and do your work, in the community with hospice patients.
That's good. Go ahead.
You do know that you're helping people. I mean, some of these people just need to get away for a while, and then of course they have things that they really need to do, like doctor's appointments and shopping or whatever. But sometimes just getting away from it all for just a little while, even though if you're doing grocery shopping or whatever you're doing, it really does help them.
Jeanetta, we've had a case before where, the daughter just wanted to go and take a nap, and so we had a volunteer come over and just sit, with the patient and be there with her and hold her hand while the daughter went in the next room to take a nap. So, our volunteers, they can do some grocery shopping but more than anything, I say that if you know how to be a friend, then you know how to be a hospice volunteer.
Just to talk to them.
I was just going to say, as far as Camp Robin is concerned, if you don't think you can do anything, you can, because they have jobs for cooking hamburgers and serving drinks, or I mean, if you don't think you have a specialty, you have all kinds of jobs for Camp Robin, I know.
Oh yeah, so many things to do, and it's such a fun day.
Yeah.
And there's a group of people that go around with each age group of kids. So if there's a certain age group of kids you really enjoy working with, you can be with that age group all day long. There's a petting zoo, so we have volunteers at the petting zoo, and you're right, cooking and arts and crafts, and there's just so many different things. There's somebody that comes and paints faces, so if there's any special talent you have, we try to put it to work.
Yeah, and so there's plenty of opportunities for you to be serviced, and that's important that they realize that. And we talked about workshops. What are some of the other things? Now, your groups, when do your groups meet?
Well, I have one in Paducah that meets every single Monday night at 5 o'clock. It's in the HIP building, the hospice office, and it's right in the front door of the hospice office, and it's just a general grief support group. It usually ends up lasting about 2 hours, and we usually give out some brief information on grief, and then people talk about, what's going on with them, and maybe even start asking each other questions and really get good support from each other. And that's a pretty in-depth, really focused on sharing group and education.
I hear y'all have some good coffee at those groups.
And that too.
Yeah.
And we also have some groups we've started that kind of specialize really for spouses. And one of our pastoral counselors is going to start a coffee group for men that'll be once a month. We have a lunch group that is for spouses, and we've been meeting at the Pork Peddler once a month, and I give out education on grief. We kind of relax. It's a good time to go out and eat and just visit with other people who've kind of been through something similar. And we also have them in Mayfield. We've got a group in Arlington. We've got a group in Draftonville. We have a group in Barlow. So I've tried to spread my groups out all over Western Kentucky. So wherever you live, there's one that would be, semi-close.
So they can call the hospice office and find out what time and where and all of
Yes.
this. Okay, and that number will be on the screen as well as everything.
Because we welcome the community as well as hospice families. It's just open to anybody who would find that to be something that would be helpful. So,
Well, that's really great that you have them all over because, some people, especially, I would say that a lot of them are, if it's spouse, that most of them are older.
and Paducah's a long drive for some people.
It
if that's
is,
the
yes it
side.
is, and especially when they're not used to getting out at night.
Yes. So we have day groups and night groups.
Oh, do you?
So-
Great, good.
Well, that's good. I talking about being a long drive. That's one of the things that amazed me when I moved to Western Kentucky was that Graves County is the largest county in area of the state of Kentucky. Yeah, and as far as area, it's the largest county in the state of Kentucky, which I thought was quite interesting when I saw that. But Susan, when do you have your training? Do you have a specific time of the year?
No, usually what we do is I kind of look and see how many people I have that are interested in training, and we get it scheduled, but it's usually quarterly, so every 3 months, and I've got one coming up probably in April, but people can call and get information about that.
Okay. And Camp Robin again is in May?
May 30th
May 30th.
from 9 to 2. We're going to
Okay.
be at First Baptist.
Are you going to be at First Baptist again?
Yes.
And the park right there next to
Yes.
it, yeah.
Tyler
That's a
Park.
nice place for it. Yeah. What's the name of
Yes,
that
it
park?
is. Kyler.
Kyler, okay.
Park.
Yeah, that's a nice place for
We've
it
always
there.
had good weather for it, so
Yeah,
Yeah,
won't have as many trees this year as you had last year.
that's right. and I saw they were getting all the limbs cleared away, so that's good.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, it's always exciting to talk about, and one of the things that I guess we can talk about here is this is a book that we have available, and when I say we, I belong to an organization called SignAmerica.org, and this is a book that we have published to use in hospice, and primarily, and we use it. There's like 300 and something of us signers throughout the United States and Canada that work in different various hospice organizations throughout the United States, and the author of this book donated the rights to the book to us for this, and it tells a story of a child who's terminally ill, is what it does, and it goes through the different grief, kind of, I guess you would call them grief periods in the book, and talks about how they go through it, and ends up with the child being an angel in the sky. And it's a real neat book, but what it does is, and what we hope that it does, is that it helps other children and even parents understand what's happening. In our work this year of making our Santa phone calls, I had a call to call one child in Louisiana, I think it was, and on the information sheet it said that she lost a baby brother this year at birth. Only lived for 2 days, but so I talked to the child, and then when I got through talking to the child, I said, "Can I speak to your mother?" And I spoke to her, and I said, "How is the child doing with the death? Is she dealing with it?" She said, "Well, she's dealing with it pretty good. In fact," she says, most of the time better than I am. And so I asked her, I said, well, how are you dealing with it and handling it? And she says, most of the time pretty good. And so I sent her one of these books. I said, the book is for both of you. It's for the child, but it's for you too, so that you can see it. But sometimes, Jeanette and I have talked so many times that in so many ways that sometimes it's just a kind word or just a little, something that is such a little effort or deed to us that makes a difference in
sometimes it's just listening to people.
Or even just bringing it up, because so many times people try not to bring those things up when really people want you to bring it up and they want to talk about it. And just by you mentioning it, you allowed her to talk about it.
Yeah. And so we run into a lot of situations like that, and with kids. I've actually, in my mall work, I've had them send me a note that this child lost their mother 2 weeks ago, or different things like this. And so I've said that sitting in the Santa chair, if you treat it right, gives you an opportunity to do a lot of good.
Yes.
It really gives you an opportunity to do a lot of good. And so that's the way that we've tried to deal with it. And I've always said that when you can go in a room and people's faces light up and smiles come over them and the gleam comes in their eyes, you're doing something right. you know. Well, listen, ladies, we've enjoyed having you with us. We're about out of time here again today. And
Thank you.
Again, the information will be on the screen, how you can get in touch with hospice and the work. And we encourage you to volunteer and to get involved with the work. And we'll be seeing y'all again, because with the camp coming up and the things like that, we'll be looking forward to it again this year. And we want to encourage you again to get involved in your community, to get involved in different organizations. You'll see the information is on the screen. It'll have our blog address on it. It'll have an address as to how you can get in touch with us, and we encourage you to get in touch with us. By the way, if you have an idea for a good show, remember our show is called the Fabulous Fifties and Beyond, and we try to cover programs and services and people who are doing things in that age category. Not that these ladies are over 50, but their programs deal with people over 50 a lot of times. So we want to encourage you to take part in our show. We look forward to seeing you again at our next show. And remember, 3 times a week you can see our show, or you can see us online, and we encourage you to do that also. Remember, our motto is use it or lose it.
Can't see as well as I used to, can't run as far or as fast. Sometimes I think that the old me is becoming exactly that. But when I start thinking of all I don't have, that's when I tell poor me Beethoven was 50 and deaf as a post when he wrote his 9th symphony. And he'd say, go with what you got, start from where you are, give it your best shot, keep reaching for that star.